All right, so welcome everybody to the very first edition of this What's New series. So today we're going to be talking about what's new in SAP Build, and we'll cover the recent releases from Q2 of 2024. My name is Ishmael Xavier, and I'm from the SAP Build Product Enablement team, and we're very excited to bring you this edition today. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. We'll record the session and share this afterwards along with the slides. This is open to both external and internal audiences. If you have questions, you can use the chat to ask throughout the webinar. And of course, at the end, we'll have time to address these. So just a quick look at our agenda. We'll have first, we'll look at SAP Build Apps, and there we'll discuss the seamless integration of apps and processes. Next, we'll look at SAP Build Process Automation and Advanced Event Mesh integration. Then we'll move on to SAP Build Work Zone with guided experiences in SAP Build. And then finally, we'll look at SAP Build Code and how you can extend SAP standard apps using SAP UI5 adaptation projects. Okay, so now we can meet our speakers for today. So first, we'll hear from Shruti Chiramel, who is the Senior Product Manager from SAP Build Apps. Next, we'll hear from Win Acharya, Product Manager for SAP Build Process Automation. And then we'll hear from Yumna Abbasi, Product Manager for SAP Build Workzone. And then finally, Oliver Graf, Director of Product Management from SAP Build Code. And so with that, I'll hand it over to our first speaker of today, and that's Shruti.
So hello, everyone. My name is Shruti. A very warm welcome. I'm very happy to take you through our latest release of Build Apps in Q2, which is triggering and consuming processes from SAP Build Process Automation into Build Apps. So with this new feature addition, we will essentially bridge the gap between these two products. And this is a significant step towards a more unified experience across Build. So as you know, previously, we had a method, a very preliminary method through which we could establish a connection via APIs. And now, instead of that, what we have is a seamless integration from Build Apps through Build Library, which I will be showcasing in a bit through my demo. So essentially, to start discovering and utilizing processes within your applications, you will need to create at least one business process in Build Process Automation and release it into the library. You will then find these published processes in SAP Build Library. Once you enable the selected process, you can begin to leverage it within your Build App application by adding a logic function that will trigger the process automation process. Some notes that you need to remember is that only processes with an API trigger will be visible in the Build Library. And SAP Build App can only access the latest published version of the process. So always make sure to publish the newest version into the library. Now here I have detailed a very short use case to set the context for the demo that I'll be showcasing in a bit. So what we have here is essentially the new employee onboarding use case. For example, as a new employee, they would want to order a new work equipment. And for this, what we need to do is within Build Apps, we would need to create the purchase order form, UI form, with the fields like name, equipment type, quantity, etc. Then we would need to discover the published process from library and consume it in Build Apps. So this process would be pre-existing or pre-published from SAP Build Process Automation. And within the rules or the decisions that is established within process automation, we would also add a condition that if the price is below 200 euros, it will go in for auto approval, or else if it's greater than 200 euros, for example, if a monitor costs greater than 200 euros, it should go through a managerial approval. And as I mentioned before, the prerequisite really is that only processes with an API trigger will be visible in the SAP Build library. And with that, let us quickly switch our screen and go to the demo system. So just give me a moment. All right, so here we are. So what we see here essentially is the landing page or the bill lobby. And as you can see, I have already pre-created the purchase order within Build Apps and the purchase order process within Build Process Automation. So first, let's get into the process automation and see how we have tried to establish this process. So as you can see here, we've configured a trigger. And after that, we have a condition established here, which is that if the price is greater than 200 euros, it goes in for a managerial approval, or else it goes in for a default approval. And as you can see within the managerial approval form, we have all the fields pre-populated. For example, we have the subject, description, priority, and the process started by to showcase who exactly started the process, so on and so forth. And within the inputs and output, we have the fields which we would be mapping into Build Apps UI form as well. So this includes the equipment name, the price per unit, etc. And within the outputs, we would have the decision, which is approve or reject, which is taken by the manager, and the optional managerial comments. And now let's get into the Build Apps UI form. Okay. So here we are. So this is the UI canvas. And as you see here, we have created a purchase order form with the equipment name, equipment ID, price, the quantity, and the optional comment. And there's a button to create the purchase order, which is where we have configured all the logic within the logic canvas. So let's get into the first step, which is to trigger the build process automation process. So as always, our first step is enabling the BTP authentication, and we have already enabled authentication here. And now to find the process, we need to go into the data tab and go into add integration. And as you can see, we have now configured SAP Build Library within Build Apps, and this will enable you to browse through all the processes or all the content that has been published into the Build Library. And here what we want to search for is the equipment purchase order. So we have it right here. So as mentioned before, this is a purchase order with a trigger or a process with a trigger. And with this process, we have 5 actions that comes with it. So first is the trigger process, which will trigger the process. Next, we have the process attributes, which is to receive or retrieve the running instance of the equipment purchase order. Then we have the update process instance. So this will essentially update the status to cancel, suspended, or whatever is the current status of the running process. Then we have the retrieve process instance. So it will return all the running or the erroneous instances of the processes. And finally, we have the retrieve process execution log. So this retrieves all the execution logs for the given process instance. For simplicity of today's demo, we would only be going through the first scenario, which is the triggering of a process. So as you can see, we have enabled the process right here. And after enabling the process, what we need to do is going to the UI canvas and going to the logic canvas right here, one click of the button. And when we scroll through the core components tab, you will see that we have now added the trigger process right here, which you can easily drag and drop into the canvas to configure the trigger process. So we have already pre-populated it here. And you can see we have the input coming in as the equipment purchase order with the input parameters. And now what we need to do is go into the input parameters into the custom objects and also bind the variables which we had in the UI canvas, which is the price, amount, comment equipment ID and equipment name, and save it. Now that the entire process is now integrated, so this is essentially how we integrate the process automation process into Build Apps. We can test it by launching it into the preview portal. So let's open the web preview, and we have it right here. So let's say we want to order a monitor with the price approximately 500 euros. So since this is more than 200 euros, this should ideally go in for a managerial approval. And let's hit on the create purchase order button. The process is now running and the purchase order has been now created. Now next, ideally, I should be receiving a email in my inbox. So let's go into inbox and see whether or not we have received the email for the approval of this purchase order. So let's refresh. Okay, I see one here. Loading. Yeah, there we have. We have the equipment monitor, which is here for approval, and say I approve it. So I've now successfully approved the request. And here we can also see the workflow log, which will essentially show who created the process, who started the workflow, etc. So that was all about today's Q2 update on the new integration between process automation and Build App. I hope this would be a very useful addition to our One Build story. Thank you very much.
I would be going to the topic of SAP Build Process Automation support for advanced event mesh for event triggers. So before we go deep into the advanced event mesh topic, I would like to just start with an overview. SAP offers two compelling solutions for event-driven solutions. One is event mesh and the other is advanced event mesh. So let's just take a look at what they mean. So for SAP Event Mesh, it's actually a very lightweight solution for the core event streaming and integration. It's a very good choice if you're looking at simple integration scenarios, mostly if it's within the SAP ecosystem. It's very cost effective and it has a usage-based pricing. And it is also having a simple deployment option for SAP BTP. For advanced event mesh, however, you can use it when you want to use something beyond basic integration and you want robust event management capabilities. You can have good governance throughout the life cycle for the events, ensuring data integrity and compliance. You have good options for design, publishing, and discover events. And you have also deployment options on different public clouds, different platforms. You can have data consistency maintained through different event transactions. You can replay messages, and the most important is you can handle large payloads and storage for demanding use cases. This is the by far one of the very key aspects when you want to choose advanced event mesh. Now, as a conclusion, we always recommend users to use either of the solution depending on the requirement. So what is your complexity? If you want simple solution, you can go for event mesh. And if you want complex solutions, of course, advanced event mesh is a better option. If you want event governance capabilities, then you should go for advanced event mesh. And of course, deployment options. If you are okay with a simple deployment on BTP, then you can go with event mesh. Otherwise, you can go with advanced event mesh. And one again crucial factor that I mentioned just some time back is the data volume. If you're looking at large payloads and large volume of events, then you should use advanced event mesh. So just as a disclaimer here, we have given a note. Advanced event mesh can handle message size up to 30 MB with storage of 6 terabytes. And event mesh is comparatively smaller. So we also have a link here in the PPT for SAP help documentation and video. Now, as a setup overview, this is how a very high level overview of the event mesh and advanced event mesh should look like. On the left side, we have SAP Build Process Automation, which hosts the business event trigger service. Then we have the event mesh that you see in the gray area. So the top is event mesh and the bottom is advanced event mesh. This means that both can work in parallel, and you can also switch over from the existing event mesh capabilities to the advanced event mesh capabilities. On the right side, we see the S4 HANA system where you have different communication scenarios, different topics enabled. So what happens is the flow starts from right to left in this case. So an event occurs in the S4 system. The topic that you have subscribed to comes to the event mesh or advanced event mesh. And in event mesh, what happens is a consumer queue that picks up this event topics, forwards it to the webhook, and the webhook then sends it to the SBPA event trigger service. In advanced event mesh, this is slightly different because event topics are pushed to consumer queue, and we have REST connector that hosts the REST consumer. This takes care of pushing the events to the business event trigger service to the SBPA. Okay. Now let me just go through the quick demo. So here we are showing two screens side by side to show you more context of the things. On the right side is an S4 HANA system that shows a create billing document app. So what we would do is we would select one of these billing items and create a billing document. This is the simplest scenario just to show how the event flows from the S4 system to BTP and how it comes to build. So on the left side, we see a sub account of BTP. And here we see what are the subscriptions. We have SAP Build Process Automation. We also have Event Mesh and Advanced Event Mesh. So what is offered in Event Mesh and Advanced Event Mesh, we'll just see shortly. So when you click on Event Mesh, you can see the message clients here. So these are the message clients that are configured. They have the queues and webhooks. For example, if you see here, this is a queue. And here we have the subscriptions. Okay, so we are subscribing to the topics of the connected S4 systems. Here's a wildcard character, but generally you would need a very specific event or list of events to be listed there. And for SAP Advanced Event Mesh, we would see the configurations are slightly more advanced, or we have more options for the configurations. So this is part of integration suite as well, Advanced Event Mesh. And yeah, so this is the screen. This is the home screen. And from here, you can go to the cluster manager. And in the cluster manager, you see the cluster that is listed. Then we have the status. You can see more details here. And in the manage section, you can see the queues. And here is the queue that we have configured, and then you can see the subscriptions. So whatever subscriptions you have for the event topics are listed here. You can see 2 are there already. Then you can go to the connectors, and you can see the connector that is mentioned here. And also we can see what is the process that we have built. This is a simple process. We are having an event trigger based on billing document created. And once the billing document is created, it's just a simple process runs through. So now let's move on and select item here on the S4 side, and then say we want to create a billing document. Sometimes it takes some time to load. On the right side, it is fetching all the details for the billing document. And meanwhile, we can explore also the SAP Build Process Automation. So here you can see this is the monitor workflow instances that Shruti was showing just some time back. And there are 2 instances as of now. So whenever our process executes and runs, it should come here. Another important aspect is the event acquisition, business event style. What happens is it lists all the event information here, all the payload is listed here. And event mesh generally after consumption does not retain this data. Here we are retaining the data for 7 days. And this is the S4 HANA counterpart of tracking the events. So whenever an event is dispatched, it will be listed here. There are 2 channels as of now. One is for advanced event mesh, the first one, and the second one is for the normal event mesh. You can see it's only 1 and 1. And on the right side, once we save the billing document request, we should actually fire an event for billing document created. Okay, so this is now fired from the S4 side. Now just let's refresh the screen, and you can see here these events are dispatched. So for two channels, I mean the same event is being dispatched, but in SPPA we will see only one event. So whatever document we have created now, 657 ending with that number, you can see on the right and left it matches the same billing document number, and this will be now handled by the SPPA. So it doesn't depend how many channels you have, it's still handled and received once and forwarded once to the incoming processes. Now, like I said, the process was completed just instantly because there was not much steps in the process, but this is how the event started and it was consumed in the process. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much, and please use this feature and let us know your feedback and experiences. Thank you.
From my side, I will be doing the guided experience in SAP Build. This is the new feature that we have released and we've been working on, and many capabilities that keep coming in the next few months as well. We want to show what was new around the guided experiences in Q2, so in the previous quarter. And I will also show some product in action. So very excited to share all the details with all of you. Just before we start, I would firstly discuss a bit about what and why we are working on and doing all of this around this product and this feature and why it is needed. So we do know that the users that are users, they have their whole journeys and they go through all of these processes on daily basis that include from ordering a company car to booking travel costs or their unit cost overviews. And all of these are multi-step complex processes. For example, if we take an example of onboarding, in a user's mind, it is just one full process that can be done smoothly in one go. But in real, this is a multiple functional areas are involved in this process. So which means there are different departments, there's interaction between different systems. These systems can be SAP and non-SAP systems. So all of a sudden, which should have been a much more consistent and a single streamlined process, it becomes and turns into an experience that can be disconnected and disjointed and overwhelming. So this is what we want to overcome with guided experiences. We want to achieve a more streamlined and a more guided experience for our users, which would mean that there is a wizard-like experience that enables the users to create interactive and step-by-step guides for navigating and using different applications. So let's dig a bit deeper into what then guided experiences is all about, and also a bit on, as you said, also about what they are not, so that I will focus on that a bit first so that you understand what it should not be confused with. So starting off with what they are not. So the primary purpose of guided experience is not to do all the steps in one system, or it's not also to rebuild all the steps that were previously done in different systems now into one system. This is not our purpose. So we are collecting, there are multiple systems still involved in this. And then also this should not be confused with basic trial, which was previously on SAP.com. It was called as guided experience, but this was a separate thing. Now it's called basic trial. So this are the things we want you to not confuse guided experiences with. And then slightly talking about then what they are instead. So guided experience is a really complex and a multi-step, multi-system processes that with the objective that they are now harmonized and unified into experience, and that involves processes from and activities that are from spanning in across different multiple systems. This is again typically SAP, non-SAP systems, and this does not have to be done, all of this complex process does not have to be done in one sitting, which means that you can come back to it later, your progress is being saved. And yes, and the very exciting part is that it incorporates all the capabilities across SAP Build solutions for a unified offering. So it's not just one product involved, but it is processes. It's coming from different products of SAP Build. So process automation, work zone, build apps, they're all coming closer, bringing all the low code, no code capabilities. So let's just to explain a bit more about the solution anatomy for guided experiences and how it looks like. Just as a disclaimer in the beginning, I want to tell you that not everything that you see on this slide right now, this is not all released as of today. So the upper part, the upper box of SAP Build Work Zone, this has already been released in the past few months and quarters. And then everything from SAP Build Process Automation, this dimension of the architecture is currently in the final stages of development, and it will be released very soon. We're not talking about months or weeks, it's just days. So very soon, maybe we can touch upon that in our next webinars of this series as well. So as you see, there are two dimensions. So these two boxes, the first dimension, the top one, is from SAP Build Work Zone. So you start creating the actual user interface, which is the wizard-like layout for users to work with. And in this wizard-like layout, you can mix and match different out-of-the-box widgets like texts, images, UI5 cards, and you can also put in other developed applications via SAP Build Apps. So, and then you bring all of this together into SAP Build Work Zone. So it is consumed via SAP Build Work Zone. And in the second dimension that you see below here is the more advanced, for more advanced processes, you can use the capabilities of process automation. For example, if you want to input forms, or you need to, if you want to input forms that need to be filled out by the users, you can bring in the capabilities of process automation, and then they will also be finally utilized up here, so in Work Zone. So it's very exciting, all of the build low code story coming together in one overall experience. Today we will be, although focusing a bit more on the things that are already GA or that became GA in Q2, so which are available as of today. So the build work zone part and the wizard layout, as I discussed previously. So before I get into the system and show you how it looks like, I think it would be a good idea that we talk a bit about how and what basically this wizard layout on a work page is. So this allows users to create wizard layout on any work page in SAP Build Work Zone. So the users can create a multi-step process of different widgets and UI integration cards, and it can consist of multiple stages, and each of this stage then can have multiple steps. So then finally you will be guided through each of these steps one by one. And all the different UI available in Work Zone, for example, tiles, widgets, everything can be added to each of this step. And in this Work Zone wizard layout is gradually, if you go forward, it is saving the progress that you're doing. So you do not have to also do everything in one setting. If you're talking about the example of onboarding, you can come back to it later in the next days. So you will see how and what can be done around this just in a few seconds as I go into my demo. Now I will be shifting my screens. I will quickly bring up the demo here. If you already know of, and I hope you already know of how Work Zone looks like. So all the page building capabilities, the very low code, no code page building capabilities that we have here in Work Zone, they can be used to now also create a widget. I will walk you through a quick creation process of a widget to show you and give you a feel of how it looks like. So over here, if we're on our homepage, and then we can use this button to quickly go on the on editing how our page looks like. And if you know of the work zone page building capabilities, you will know you're able to add sections, and each of these sections have a grid-like layout, and in each of these buckets then you can add different widgets. So this was already available previously on SAP Build Work Zone. So you can here add tiles, cards, multimedia, and lots of other options as you see on the screen. So what is new now? So if you go here, in the same way how you were previously adding widgets, now you can also create or add a widget to your page. So on your work page, you can just very quickly create a widget. If we talk about onboarding again, you can just give a title to your widget. You can add a short description. You'll have all these different display options. So if you want the work page to be embedded, or it can open up as in a new dialog, then you can add from here you can add a cover photo, and then when you go down you will see you're able to put in the stages and steps that I was previously showing to you on the slides. So over here, if we want to create a widget with multiple stages, for example, I select this, then you can see that how we have different stages now, and you can add more stages from here. And in each of the stage, then from here, you can also add multiple steps as well. So making it a multi-step process, and then for your user to, in the end, consume it. For time-saving purposes, I have an already available widget here, visit here. So from here, you can see I've created something, and if I go here, I will be able to edit it. Just to show you how it looks like now here, I've added all the different options and all the different steps and stages that I wanted, and then you will be able to consume it. So now I will just cancel this, and I will just quickly switch hats and become this user who is consuming the widget. So for example, now I'm someone who has their first day at a company, and I want to go through this onboarding widget and this onboarding experience using the widget. So I'll come on my work zone, and I will see that here on the top, I can just start quickly consuming this widget. So as you see here, it's a very nicely made widget where some steps are optional, some are compulsory. So welcome on board. Then you go on the next steps. This is not an optional step, so you would have to, for sure. For example, if I want to go, it will give me an error because this is a compulsory step. So you should be doing all of these steps before you can go forward. So here I can select my equipment. I can add it to my favorite. Then if I go to the next step, there is I can submit my vaccination details, everything just at one place without any hassle of switching systems or going from one place to another, making it a more hassle-free and also a very guided experience for the users.
Thanks, Yumna. My name is Oliver Greff. I'm product manager for SAP UI5, and this is about SAP Build Code, and specifically on extending SAP standard applications using SAP UI5 adaptation projects. So if you are a customer and you're using an SAP solution, standard applications from SAP, you often would want to extend them a bit. Extend the standard solutions, for example, to optimize the user experience and to tailor the user experience to your business users in your company. Maybe you want to simplify the processes, the business processes of the SAP solution because the SAP application is just too complex. Or you want to add some custom functionalities, some custom feature, custom coding, put in some additional technologies, which is not part of the standard. So which technology can help you doing that? I want to introduce SAP UI5 flexibility to help you with that. So as I mentioned, SAP delivers many standard applications, for example, Fiori applications in SAP S/4HANA. But you as a partner or customer might have certain requirements to change those apps a bit. Maybe it's just adding a custom field. Maybe it's just hiding some functionality which is too complex, which is not relevant for your scenario. So that means you want to extend the standard applications. And this is where it's getting interesting. In the past, you had to use predefined extension points. So some application developer would put in predefined extension points in the coding, and this is the places where you can actually extend the coding. Those predefined extension points were often not sufficient, not enough, not in the right place, not available consistency across a solution. So that was a challenge. Also managing the extensions. Your custom extensions are, of course, somehow coupled with SAP standard applications, using the data, using functionalities, and so on. And how is that coupled? That needs to happen in a clever way that it works together. So ideally, this happens in a clean core approach, meaning your custom extensions are nicely separated from SAP standard, not modifying standard code, for example, nicely separated, but working together properly, even when the SAP standard upgrades, for example. So if there are so many challenges, let's say, you could just say, well, then I just don't do this, I just build my custom app. But that is not very efficient because the whole custom app is in your responsibility, the maintenance, future updates, and so on. And that's typically not what you want to do. What you want to do is to adopt an SAP standard app and then add your custom extensions, let's say a custom field or anything, add that in a clean core fashion to SAP standard, meaning your custom code is nicely separated from the standard, but they work together and they would even survive, let's say, an upgrade of the SAP standard. And you would do that, for example, if you're using SAP S/4HANA, some standard apps in S/4HANA, and you want to tailor them for your business users. Or another scenario, you are, for example, using ECC on-prem, and you have a lot of Z coding in there, a lot of custom coding, maybe even modifications of the standard. And moving those to cloud would help you on your journey to cloud solutions, for example, SAP S/4HANA Cloud. And SAP UI5 flexibility is exactly the technologies helping you with that. Just explaining the different personas which are supported by SAP UI5 flexibility. Here in this slot today, we're talking about the developer, just one of them, but I want to give you the full picture. The end user can do changes. The end user can do changes to a business app right on the business app using drag and drop and personalize the app just for him or herself. A key user can do changes. A key user knows how the end users work, and a key user can tailor a standard app for many key users, for example, for a business role and so on. So a key user has some technical knowledge, but is not a developer and adapts an app for many end users. And the topic of today is how developers would work. Developers would work in coding. Developers work in SAP Build Code to adapt an app for everyone. This is just like, let's say, if you have an ABAP background, you'll probably know extensions to ABAP coding. In the best case, this happens by implementing a body if it exists, and worst case is we would modify SAP standard coding. Same scenario here. So these are the types of users, and the functionality of SAP UI5 flexibility is available in different products. You see in the rows here the functionality, the end user personalization key user adaptation and developer adaptation, what I just mentioned. And in the columns, you see the different platforms which correspond to SAP solutions. And in the middle, you see, for example, SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So this is the availability of SAP UI5 flexibility for S/4HANA Cloud. And as you can see, only recently we made the developer adaptation available for that. And just to summarize, this means that, for example, for SAP S/4HANA Cloud, meaning a cloud solution, you can add developer adaptations, extensions, let's say code-based extensions to that cloud solutions with a very intelligent logic which keeps your extensions, your code-based extensions, nicely separated from the standard, but they work together and they even work after an update for an S/4HANA Cloud. So I think this is a quite important scenario for many partners and customers. Last slide, just a couple of links. So the slides will be shared and you can look at these information. I want to particular mention the tutorial here at the very bottom. The tutorial gives very detailed steps on how to do that with an S/4HANA cloud system. I can recommend that. There's a lot of information in there. So let's have a look at the system. So this is the SAP Business Application Studio. I already launched that. And now let's create an extension. Let's extend an S/4HANA cloud application. I'm creating a new project from template here, and I'm not creating a new Fiori application, a custom application, but what I'm going to create is an app variant, as you can see here. So it's a variant of a standard application. I'm not creating a full new own application, but a variant of a standard application. And I'm doing this in the ABAP environment. And I'm just calling this custom app. I'm not wasting a lot of time here. This is my custom extension. And I have to select a system. So here I'm going to pick the S/4HANA cloud system. This is where my standard application resides. And I'm picking an application. And the application I want to extend is the Manage Credit Accounts application here. So this is the standard application from SAP. And I want to extend that. I'm just filling some mandatory, more technical fields here. For example, where to store the application, the package, transport request, and finish. So as you can see on the bottom right, this is generating the application. And what's happening here is that this custom app, as it's called, is being created, but it's an empty project. There's not a lot in there. There's no application logic. Once this is done creating, I can launch the application. Let me just launch the preview here. And this is pulling the application from the S/4HANA system and launching the app. And you can see the standard application from SAP and some data. So now my business users want to have an extra custom button here. Somewhere in this toolbar, I want to add a custom button. Now, let's go back to the application. And I'm open the SAP UI5 Visual Editor to do that change. Remember, I'm a developer working in Build Code in Business Application Studio. I see the standard application. I can navigate through the standard application until I'm at the place where I want to do a change. In this case, this is the toolbar. I want to change something here. I switch the screen to edit mode. On the left, I can see the outline, a hierarchy of the UI controls, the canvas in the middle. And for example, if I select the toolbar here, I can see on the right, it's an overflow toolbar control. Now let's add some coding to this. I can add a fragment. A fragment is a file with some coding, and create the new fragment, and I call this custom button. And I'm going to create that. Just give me a second. There's some bug. Let me just try that again. I'm opening the visual editor. Taking a while to load the application, as it's loading the application from the S/4HANA system. And here we go. So I'm switching to edit mode, adding a fragment called custom button. And it's being created. And you can see on the left, I have a new file here, the custom button file. And I'm adding a button now with a text, hello, and it has an ID, and that's it. So I added a button here, and let me go back to my editor, reload that, and I see the new button here, the hello button, and also in the application preview, if I refresh that, that is not working because I relaunched the application. But you can see here, the button is here, and now I would need to add some more coding, an event handler. Once you click on the button, some custom logic should happen. So just to summarize my demo, SAP UI5 Flexibility offers opportunities for developers to work in Build Code, to add code-based extensions to standard SAP solutions, even to cloud solutions like SAP S/4HANA. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I want to say thank you again to all of our presenters and for all of you for attending today. Of course, this is just a high-level overview of the highlights recently from our SAP Build portfolio. So if you'd like to learn more, please, of course, do check out our SAP Builders community, and also you can sign up for regular updates from our SAP Builders newsletter. So thank you again, and I wish you a great rest of your day.